You know, we have 10 minutes, as you're well aware, and make the use of it. I'll give you a heads up when we've got 2 minutes left to go.
It's all right if I stand?
Sure, absolutely.
Here today, this is probably our We believe we're making progress. One of the things, of course, that challenges us is this idea that we needed, or that communities all across the coast need to find a cost-effective means of preventing beach erosion and inundation over the long time. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble, really. And we've been working on that, and we hear that there's an all of coast plan that is being mooted at the moment, and that's being led by HBRC, and we fully support that. We think it's a good idea that we look at all of the factors that are involved, but the concern would be, of course, that this might take 3 years or more for an outcome that would give us an idea of the way forward, and we really don't have that period of time. In the meantime, we've come up with an affordable 6 groin protection from the Cape View corner to the Tukitook groin that's already there. We figure we can do that for under $10 million. We've looked at those numbers, we've crunched them again and again, and we believe we can do it. But the COMAR report and the multi-agency plan that you guys are working on has actually had the impact of putting a pause on anything happening at Clifton, and has also put a pause on our full groin protection plan. So it's kind of already having an effect of councils and Hastings saying, well, let's just stop here because we want to know the big picture. I understand that, but there's also an issue really where we don't think that we have that period of time. We can't wait at Cape View Corner in particular where there's infrastructure at risk. Our concern is that the new group will favour managed retreat, which is something that always seems to come to the fore, that managed retreat seems to be the way that everybody wants to move, or that some people want to move rather than hard engineering. We're concerned that our little community out there will be sidelined as the shift comes on the more important areas, like looking after the CBD and Napier, the port and the airport. And again, you know, the issue is that if we get inundation within this period of time, within the next 3.5 years, and we're unable to defend ourselves, we're in trouble. So we're asking for urgent damage control. We want to be able to know that HBRC can support us with a temporary consent that can be moved into full mitigation once we've proven that what we're able to achieve out there is successful, and maybe that can be used as part of the all of coast strategy. Maybe there's a bit of a test case there. So what are we protecting? Really, we're protecting the confidence of residents, businesses, future planning, scenic access to the gannets, restaurants, wineries, tourism, recreation, walking, fishing, all of those great things, the cycle track even, the council road, utilities, beach access, commercial centre, they're all at risk. Plans for an art and heritage trail, and protecting against further erosion and destruction. Those are the key things. Our groins work, we know that. We've had the whole thing peer reviewed. That big X block there is what our groins will be made of. Let's not play on that. We've got a robust solution that will work on this. All of the concerns that HBRC engineers are likely to raise, or that Tonkin and Taylor are likely to raise, have been mitigated. We're geared for 35-year predicted sea level rises. Our plan can easily be modified to meet 100-year sea rises. We've got full mitigation of downstream impacts. The major obstacle's always been access to shingle. That comes up with half the cost of whatever we want to do, and you know, we've been really concerned about that. But we've found multiple sources of shingle, and after discussions with your council chief engineer, we went looking for other sources up the Ngarurura, and we believe we've found those. We've recosted everything based on the Tonkin and Taylor report, and we believe we've got a winning combination. I mean, there's plenty of shingle around the place, no issue with that, and that's just not moving on. Okay, well, there is shingle there. Is this cutting into my... There we go, no need to grovel for gravel. So just got to be careful here.
It was stoned.
Hit it again. Yeah, it's a stone on the way. Come on. I don't know what's going on there, but certainly we've got plenty of gravel. So what we've come up with is 2 groins at that corner that will look after council infrastructure. The cost $4.6 million, which is about a good percentage of that the council there in Hastings has set aside for replacing the road anyway. The actual groin construction is only $1.3 million. All costs are covered. When we come, I think there's about $6,000 left over. Wow's going to stump up with that if need be. We just think it's a logical way forward. No cost to HBRC at all. All we're looking for is a temporary consent or a consent that says go ahead with that in this 3-year waiting period while the all of coast solution is being looked at. Let us protect our assets. Let us protect that corner. And if it's really successful, then this is the kind of thing that's at risk. If that power pole goes, you've got the power access all the way into Clifton, and Te Wonga is interrupted. That's right on the corner there. So what we're asking from you is to confirm that temporary consent is acceptable, that this is not something that's put on hold until after the 3 years when you've got the broader picture. We want to be able to be working on something, and we want confirmation that the quantity, the quality and consentability of shingle sources on the Ngāraroto and its Smalls property, where we've had council officers look at that, is acceptable. So we need to know that that shingle's there because we've managed to get the price right down, we've found the sources, we can do it, it feeds into our overall budget and it makes it affordable to the council, and we'd like the opportunity to be able to fast track investigations so that construction can proceed. But those are the 3 groins there that we propose. That's the positioning of them. So right at the corner here, and the outcome, we believe, this is what it will look like, is that it will build the beach back, and we're looking after all those downstream impacts to make sure that there's no issues there, and we'll watch that closely, and we reckon by 3 years we'll be ready to look at that and for the bigger picture to begin to make sense. So really that's pretty much it. That's a few years ago the shingle came through there. All it would take would be a really high sea, and we could lose that road. But a small groin field there would protect our infrastructure, and we think we're on point with a solution. So did I make my 10 minutes all right?
You've got plenty of time for questions. You're becoming an old hand at this, Mr. Newman. Okay, any questions? Maybe I'll kick off with one. This presentation will be going to Hastings District Council, I suspect. Yes, is that happening today? Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Have you applied for a consent?
Well, Hastings District Council will apply for the consent once we're able to get this through their processes. What they're concerned about and what we're concerned about is to know that a consent will be a viable thing to apply for. This really is a key issue at the moment. With the All of Coast plan, everybody's going, hang on a minute, let's not do anything, or let's wait and see. So what we're saying is, can we have some room there, some flexibility to say, in areas that are particularly vulnerable like Cape View, can we have a consent for that anyway? If we know there's a willingness, Hastings is much more likely to say, okay, let's go for it. These are the kinds of issues that go backwards and forwards.
Just to follow up then with a supplementary, have you read the staff report?
I have read the staff report.
Thank you. Councillor Belford.
2 questions, if I may. I'm still not clear from what you just responded, Keith. Is it your understanding that Hastings will, in fact, apply for consent?
Yes.
That they will?
Yes.
And secondly, a number of your slides, you've said that you've found a solution to the shingle issue. Is there agreement at the moment between WOW and our council that shingle is in fact there and available?
We've had that looked at. That's what we need to be. This is one of those are among the points that we need confirmation on. Is that shingle going to be made available to us? In the past, we've been told that shingle needs to be accessed at a distance that makes it at a cost of $30 a cubic metre. We've managed to get it down to $10 a cubic metre at these local sources, having spoken to the suppliers, but it will still need Hawke's Bay Regional Council to agree that that shingle can be made available to us for this purpose. I mean, the shingle at Smalls under the Tukituk Bridge, under the Red Bridge is available to us. It has been investigated and determined that that is okay. So there's enough there for the first part of the project, but we need to know that there is enough shingle allocated for the full project if need be.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Firstly, thanks for your presentation. This is clearly a huge issue that we're all trying to grips with, and it's much more closer to your hearts because you live out there, and we all around this table understand that and understand your concern. And I guess as a new person here who lives inland, I'm trying to get my head around it, around the issues of whether what you do affects downstream and that kind of thing that came out of the Coma report. Just want to say that first, but secondly, you said 10 million, and yet would covers this, and yet these say 4.6 and the other 1. Where does the 10 come from? And when you get that, where does the 10 come from? Where do you think the 10 million is going to come from?
Well, the $10 million cost is for the full groin field all the way down to the existing Tukituk groin from the Cape View corner.
Okay, all that way, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that HBRC really. We'll deal with the costs. We'll find a way to do that. Whether there's an element of rating, there's an element of public good. There's certainly $3.7 million set aside by Hastings District Council as costs to remove the road. Managed retreat, which is the other alternative, there's a cost to that. So these things need to be weighed up by council in determining public good, existing investment set aside to remove the road, and whether there's a local component of residents paying a percentage of that. So we have a spreadsheet that covers all of that, but didn't think that it was necessary to present that to you today, because that's something that we can work out with Hastings District and its officers, and that'll be part of the process going forward. But all we're looking at is the $4.6 million for the 2 groin system that will be covered within existing budget, so there won't be any outstanding amount involved.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. We've had our 10 minutes and a very fulsome presentation. Thank you, sir. And a lot for us to consider as we deliberate. Okay, now Clifton Marine Club, Mr. Paul Hursthouse. Good morning. So it's a pretty straightforward process. 10 minutes. You wish us to ask you some questions, please leave us some time, and I will tell you when 8 minutes have gone. So you've got a couple of minutes left then.
No problem.
Thanks.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I just wanted to have this opportunity to bring to your attention the gravity of the situation that we're currently facing at Clifton. We have a boating facility at Clifton. We also have a marine club at Clifton, and we have a camping ground named Camp 1 and Camp 2. The boating facilities in Hawke's Bay are limited by the nature of the beaches and the landscape. The only ramp facilities that I'm aware of in our catchment area is at Napier. And you'll see in our last year's submission to the Hastings District Council that we feel that the camp at Clifton is providing a valuable community resource. This year, late last year, the Hastings District Council and the Hawke's Bay Regional Council worked together to provide a solution to protect a portion of the access road. And it is clear that the intervention that was taken place there has worked. It's worked extremely well. Unfortunately, the erosion that is happening, not as a result of the wall, but the continual erosion, is still taking place. And we feel that a further 55, and I've since making this submission, I've been told that it's approximately 80 metres, is required to put some additional protection to the limited road access. Now, we have met with the Hastings District Council. The Hastings District Council are very adamant that it is being problem, I guess, is working with the Regional Council, because if you go for a full consenting process, the cost of doing that is prohibited. The solution is to extend the existing resource consent and use the new works under the existing resource consent and extend that wall a further 80 metres. Either rightly or wrongly, and I don't want to sound too provocative here, but the perception of the community and the perception of some members of the Hastings District Council is the Regional Council is preoccupied in some wider initiatives south of Hawke's Bay, and they don't wish to consider this. It's also the perception, and you have addressed it in the officer's report, it has been addressed in the officer's report, that the COMAR report has come to light and the sea level is going to be rising. And as a result, the concern is that there is going to be a complete halt of all activity until a wider strategic initiative across the bay is worked through. The reality is we haven't got time. If we lose access to Camp 1 and the boat ramp, it will be lost and gone forever. If we lose access to Camp 1 closes, which automatically means Camp 2 closes. We have lost a facility in Hawke's Bay forever of both Camp 1, Camp 2 and the boat club. The perception is, either rightly or wrongly, that this is, we're advocating for the Clifton Marine Club. That couldn't be more incorrect. We're advocating for the continuation of a boating facility that has served Hawke's Bay for over 60 years to be maintained. We, the Clifton Marine Club, will look after our own club. We, the Clifton Marine Club, have never sought any council assistance to the maintenance of that facility because we do it ourselves through club funds and fundraising. What we are seeking your support is to work proactively with the Hastings District Council, to allow the extension of that existing rock wall to take place under the guise of the existing resource consent. As I say, if you have been out there, you'll see the gravity of the situation. We were advised by the Hastings District Council a couple of weeks ago that to develop a new boating facility out there would be in excess of $3 million as a ballpark. We are looking at $150,000 max for an 80-metre extension that will protect that facility for future generations. All we're asking is for the Regional Council and its officers to proactively work with the Hastings District Council to provide a solution.
Thank you. I'll kick off a question, and thank you for your presentation. How long does the lease run on the camp? How many years has the lease got left to run?
There's two aspects to the lease. One is the lease of the camp and access to the boat ramp. Just because the lease to the camp may expire, and I would have to default to the Clifton Reserve Society, who holds that, it is our view that that wouldn't necessarily mean the closure of the boating facility.
Questions, Councillor Scott?
I'd just like to ask about, in your written submission, you referred to the Coast Guard. It's a pity they haven't submitted as well, so we could question them. But have you got evidence of their support? Have you?
Yes, if you look at our application last year, the Hastings District Council, there are letters of support in there. We didn't think it would be necessary to seek a similar letter of support this year, but certainly
so refer to that application of the. Yep.
I'm assuming it's in your application pack.
How often do the Coast Guard use that for rescues?
The Coast Guard don't such, but we do on behalf of the Coast Guard. So in our application, you'll see that we actually made 5 rescues this year.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Grant, you can...
Yes, so I'm just get clarification on, so I understand what you're asking for. So that rock wall that's there, that creamy rock wall, you want it to go north 80 metres?
Correct.
And you want us to give you an extension of the current consent to make that go that 80 metres.
Correct.
And that's all you're asking for us? You want the Hastings Council will pay for it. Is that correct?
Between the Hastings District Council and the Clifton Reserve Society, yes.
So you're not asking us for any money, you're just asking for a temporary consent to bring that wall down?
We're asking for the officers to work proactively with Hastings District Council to allow that to be extended, yes.
80 metres. Thank you.
Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, thanks for your submission. Have you had an opportunity to look at the COMO report?
Not in detail, no, but I've been advised at a higher level of some of the issues contained in it.
Because what the COMO report basically says is if you address the erosion problem in one part of the beach in isolation to an overall strategy, what you do is just move the problem further up the beach, the erosion problem. So if we were going to do that, what's your solution to that problem?
We've got other activity that we've commissioned within the club to refute that significant downstream effects. Whilst we accept that there are some aspects of that may have validity, if you look at WOW, for example, the research that they've had on that, they believe that they can self-contain that within that section of coast.
And you're suggesting the same thing?
Absolutely. If you actually go back a few years, the current erosion issues have been exacerbated by the removal of the rock wall that was there. So, as years gone by, there was a protection of a massive concrete posts, all sorts of things there, that were admittedly rather unsightly, and some could argue that weren't consented. Hastings District Council and the Hawke's Bay Regional Council got together and said that's got to be removed. So they removed that without putting anything back, and it's been like a vacuum cleaner ever since. If that was allowed to stay, or we had removed it and replaced it with an existing infrastructure like we have at present, we wouldn't be here today.
So how many years ago did that happen?
I've got colleagues in the back saying 2, and I've got another colleague saying 3. So 4. There
4
we
to
go.
5, yeah. Well, thank you, sir.
The problem has been extent sort of since then.
Just in parting, just one last quick one from me is, and thank you for your presentation. The consent you talk about took 6 working days. Could you explain what obstruction we've been putting in the way of Hastings District Council?
We met with the Hastings District Council on the 13th of May and were categorically advised that it was the Regional Council had indicated that that wasn't going to happen, and to have a full the next time it would have to be a full consent. And a full consent, we were advised that it was going to be $80,000.
And thank you for your presentation. 10 minutes is finished. Thank you, everyone. Right. So now we have a section